Friday, February 24th, 2023, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today we're going to look at how we bailed out the bankers in 2008 and in 2019-2020 because of the repo crisis. And what are they doing now, especially here in the UK? Well, they're ripping us off and they're treating us like criminals, and it's probably the same in the United States, I would say. Before I start though, I like to say that today, 155 years ago, President Andrew Johnson was impeached in the United States. So yes, it's an important date today, February 24th. And this is to do with also how I said they're treating us like criminals. So this is part of what I'm going to talk about. So we start here, the criminal part. And I've had a few experiences over the last 7 years or so. The first one was when my wife and I sold our previous home and moved into this home in 2015. We consolidated all our finances, paid our old mortgage. It wasn't a big one. And we had quite a bit of cash left in our bank account. And at that time, I banked with Citibank. I've always had an account with NatWest as well, which I opened many, many years ago before I opened the account at Citibank. But what Citibank kept doing, and they knew, of course, that we'd sold their house. It went through the bank account and everything. They kept pestering me about the big balance. They kept asking me to do these questionnaires about money laundering, know your client. And I had that account since the late 90s. I opened an account at Citibank when I was working for Citibank back in 95 to 97. So that was the first incident where they treated me like a criminal just because we had a little bit extra cash in the account. So I decided to close that account and go back to NatWest. And in the beginning, NatWest has been pretty good, but now they're getting worse. And I would say it's probably a lot of the other banks too. So recently, my wife decided to cash in some of her tax-free part of her private pension. She turned 55 actually a couple of years ago, or 18 months ago. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Sorry, Sarah. But she had a private pension from when she worked in the city. She worked in the city. That's how I met her. And we were surprised that it grew quite a bit. She just left it there. So we took, I said, let's take out the 25% tax-free, and we did that. And it was actually very smooth. She got the money very quickly. And prior to that, I'd been buying also a little bit of gold and silver. And I bought some gold like 2 or 3 weeks ago, just a 1 ounce Britannia. And NatWest blocked me from using the card online. I was buying it online. So I had to call the dealer and say, it failed. I'm going to send you the funds online through the bank. And I did that, and it went through. And then half an hour later, I get a call from NatWest. And they wanted to do a fraud check, security check. And I went through all the process, identification, and they were fine that it was me. And I said, no, I was doing the transaction. And then at the end, this lady, she sounded like she was somewhere in Eastern Europe. She didn't sound English. She said, what did you buy? And I said, well, I said, it's none of your business. And she said, oh, you need to tell us because this is for security. This is for your own good. And I said, why should I tell you? Can I ask you what you bought? yesterday. I said that to her. And then eventually she said, we've had to block your account and all your cards. And I was quite outraged because they had ascertained that it was me who did that transaction. And unfortunately, I was here on my own with Rudy, and my wife had gone out. And I would have had to go to my branch of NatWest, local branch, with an ID to unblock the account. And I couldn't do that. I couldn't leave him here. So I had to, I told her, they got me there. And that's just ridiculous, treating us like criminals, I would say, blocking our accounts. And then more recently, when my wife received her lump sum tax-free part of her private pension, we decided to buy some more gold and silver. And I went online again, try to use the, well, this time actually, I went online, yeah, and I didn't use the card. I just did a bank transfer. I tried to do a bank transfer, and an error message came up. They said, oh, you can't do over a certain amount in this transaction. And my limit was a lot higher, actually, than what I was purchasing. So they blocked me again from buying gold and silver. So I called the bank, and I had to do it through the phone. And I asked the guy on the other end of the phone, why are you blocking me? You know, I have a much higher limit. And he said, oh, it's because of fraud. And I'd done the same transaction, of course, the previous week. So they're treating us like criminals, and their excuse is that it's for our own security. And that's what I wanted to say as well. I think they're cracking down on people who actually want to get out of the system. The people at the top, they understand this, that people getting out of the fiat currency system, of the banking system, into gold and silver doesn't help them, doesn't help their profits. Of course, the rank and file employees, they don't understand that. And yes, it gets frustrating talking to these people, but you need to realize that they're just doing their job. What about the rip-off part? So let's go back to '08, when actually they allowed one of the banks, Northern Rock, to fail, which was a good thing. But then they saved all the other banks. And how did we bail them out? Well, we're paying for it today with all the QE they had to do. And the QE, how that works is the UK Treasury takes on hundreds of billions of debt. And then the Bank of England prints the money and buys that debt. They did about 400 billion as a result of the '08 crisis. They had to take over NatWest. They nationalized it. They've sold most of their shares. I think they still hold a big chunk of NatWest, the government. So, yeah, and they guaranteed everything. And that's all on our backs. Is it any wonder that we have the highest tax burden since World War II, or about 70 years? Is it any wonder that the cost of living is rising at double digits? And it's a lot more than 10%, as you can see here. Look at this. Someone sent me this yesterday, replied to a tweet. It says, this is from, I think this is from Virgin Mobile. It says, from April 1st, the monthly price of your calls, texts, and data will go up by 17.3%, in line with retail price index. So that's the RPI I've been talking to you about, that the Bank of England and the government totally ignore, but which businesses use, because it's the real debasement of the currency, is the real rising cost of living, plus 3.9%. For example, an £8 plan will increase by £1.38. Seafood details and legal stuff at. So you get the message. We're paying for this through inflation, And what is inflation really? Well, it's when the government and the bankers create money out of thin air. And the economy is not allowed to adjust. The real economy is basically shredded. It's financialized. So all they want you to do now, us plebs, all they want us to do is to borrow and spend. And that's how they make their billions. And we bailed them out as well in 2019, 2020. Yes, we did. Some people might say, well, what about COVID? That was just a cover. The banks were collapsing. Just watch my interview with John Titus I did a couple of days ago. I'm going to put it up in the cards to see how there's panic borrowing by the bankers on Wall Street and the City of London. So they threw another £500 billion of QE, and our national debt has gone through the roof, and we're having to pay for it. And we're seeing also the consumer prices rise now. And I tweeted this out yesterday. And I mean, I have a fairly big Twitter following. I mean, it's almost up to 13,000. This one got quite a few likes, 108. So this is what I said here. The bankers are charging HM Treasury, which is really us, because where does the HM, Her Majesty, or His Majesty now, Treasury get its money? Well, it gets it from us, the taxpayer in the private sector. That's the other thing a lot of people don't realize. People in the public sector don't pay tax. How can they pay tax on money that comes from tax, right? It's just a reshuffling. But anyway, I said, I'll start again, sorry. The bankers are charging HM Treasury or taxpayers around 4% to borrow short term, but only give us plebs 0.65%. And then I said, I'm talking to you, NatWest Group, because there's my account here. This is one of the savings accounts. It pays 0.65%. And you might be asking, why do you keep savings there? As the popularity of this channel has grown over the last 3 years, thanks to you, my income has grown. And I have to pay taxes as self-employed. Most of my life working, I was employed, and I didn't really think about what that meant. And what this means is that every time I get paid, I need to put some funds aside to cover next year's tax bill, or this year's tax bill that I have to pay by January 2024. So yeah, I keep a bit of fiat there. And that's how they get you, because of the taxes, and you have to pay taxes in their crappy fiat currency. But as you can see here, this is the rates that the government is paying. 3 months, they're paying almost 4%. 6 months, they're paying over 4%. So who lends them this money? Well, it's the commercial banks through the Bank of England, through our support of them. We've been lumbered with a huge national debt that's supposedly risk-free, that backs all their operations. So yeah, here they are earning over 4% for 6 months, but only giving us 0.65%. So they're ripping us off. We bail them out. What's the solution here? Well, unfortunately, the government has been captured by the banking elite, and it's probably been captured since the Bank of England was created. So just show you some of the headlines here, because they're benefiting from it. This is the rip-off part. So there you go. UK bank profits 2022. UK banks set to report record profits of 37 billion, beating pre-financial crisis highs. So there you go. The other outrageous thing, and you might remember this or maybe not, during lockdown, under the chancellor then, who was Rishi Sunak. Yeah, the guy who's prime minister now. The government and the banks got together to give small businesses, big businesses, all these guaranteed loans. What do I mean? Government guaranteed. So the bankers made probably billions from a lot of these loans, but at the same time, there's, according to the Guardian here, how the UK government lost 4.9 billion to COVID loan fraud. So the bankers, they always get us, or the government, it's us in the end of the day, because we pay the tax, to back their shenanigans. And then when it goes bad, we have to pay for it. But when it goes well, they keep all the profits. And that's how they rip us off. What's the solution to this? Well, I'm going to reference a book here that I'm reading, and I'm almost finished. It's Dan Jones' Powers and Thrones, A New History of the Middle Ages. Well, I think what's going to happen is something that's happened regularly in the history of this country. And he calls it, Dan Jones, a summer of blood, right? So this happened in 1381. So I'm going to read through here, and I think that's the only way things are going to change, unfortunately. It says, as was the case in France during the Jacquerie, the English rising of 1381 was not the preserve of the very poorest in society. Rather, it was led by what we might call the middling sort, not for the most part knights or gentlemen, but village elites who occupied roles of petty responsibilities, such as constables and parish priests. The rank and file, meanwhile, were typically skilled artisans like carpenters, masons, shoemakers, skinners, and weavers. The most famous leaders were Wat Tyler, who may well have served in France in one of the campaigns of the 100-Year War, and John Ball, a priest originally from Yorkshire, who was well known to the authorities, thanks to the long personal history of preaching egalitarian doctrine, which had earned him incarceration in the Canterbury jail for causing a public nuisance. During the Rising, Tyler operated as de facto captain of Kent and Essex rebels, while Ball served as the spiritual guide. In early June, Ball and thousands of like-minded folk marched up the Thames towards London, where they planned to join with disaffected apprentices and workers in a demonstration against the incompetence of Richard II's minority government. They had momentum, confidence, numbers, and no landlord on their route dared stand in their way. So this is a tax revolt. People were sick and tired of all the taxes and the poverty. So I won't continue, but it didn't work out for them, of course, at the end. Interesting that they camped at Blackheath. That's where we used to live many years ago, Blackheath. So quite historic, I guess, place. But that's what I mean. Barring something like really, I mean, it's not going to take a banking reform. That's what I'm trying to say to solve this problem. It's a much bigger problem. It's embedded, unfortunately, in our government. They've taken over. They're not going to go against the banks. And yes, what they want you to do is to keep borrowing. So they keep squeezing you. They keep taxing you and treating you like a criminal as well. So with that, let's quickly look at where the markets are this morning. So it's 8:40 a.m. London time. You've probably noticed that Rudy's not here today. He's doing fine. It's just I'm trying to ease him into the to his job. Not really a job, of course. But anyway, we've got spot gold trading at 18.25. It's up just under $3. High's been 28, and the low's been just under 20. Silver is at 21.20. It's down 10 cents. The low's been 12 and the high 41. The Dow futures is down 58. NASDAQ 100 futures down 54, and the S&P is down about 8 points. To the currencies, sterling is up 0.2 at 120.38. The euro is unchanged at 105.93. The dollar is up slightly versus the yen, 134.85. And the dollar is up quite a bit against the yuan. It's up 0.5% at 6.95. To the other currencies, Aussie dollar is down 0.2 at 67.93. The dollar is unchanged versus the Canadian dollar, 135.56. And the Kiwi dollar is down slightly at 62.20. To the general commodities now, we've got platinum down about $6, trading around $9.43. WTI crude is up over 1% at 76.32. Brent crude is up over 1% at 82.90. And high-grade copper is down slightly at 4.05. Finish off with the bond markets. We'll start with the JGB, or the Japanese government bond market. It looks like they're still being able to keep it below 0.5, that 10-year yield. I think the high today was 0.505. So there you go. To the US Treasury market, we've got the 10-year yield unchanged at 388. So not much going on there. And now to the gilt market, to the UK government bond market. Well, the 2-year is unchanged at 391. We're approaching 4% there. And I think the key level really was around 360, 370. So it's broken out, that yield. The 10-year is unchanged at 359. And the 30-year is trading around 4%. And I think it got up to 408 yesterday. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day and a very good weekend. Take care. Bye.